Okay, good morning everybody. I thought I would take you guys along with me on how I support my body during my luteal phase. I feel like the luteal phase gets a really bad rep amongst women because it is the second half of our cycle and it is when women will experience the more unwanted, unglamorous parts about being a woman. That's when we experience PMS and bloating and acne and all of those things if our body is not in balance. And I wanted to share how I bring balance and harmony to my body so that I can experience the magic of this phase. I really love how I can romanticize my luteal phase because I do love the depth that it offers. There is a flow and a fluctuation that happens within our luteal phase because it is the 2 weeks leading up to our bleed after ovulation. There is a fluctuation of hormones that happens because our progesterone rises and then it crashes and then it rises again and then it crashes pretty drastically right before the start of our bleed. And so this flow and this fluctuation can lead to a lot of emotional unrest, a lot of emotional fluctuations, a lot of moodiness, but it also helps to bring to surface all of the things that we've been stuffing down during follicular and ovulatory phase with all of the hormones and the energy and the hot estrogen. Progesterone that is rising, and it should be taking the star of the show here if our body's in balance, is a cooling and calming chemical. It tells us to make home within ourselves because we are preparing to shed our uterine lining. It is a death process as our corpus luteum is building, and essentially that is the egg dying and preparing to shed. Just like fall, the leaves are changing and preparing to fall and return to the earth where they will be decomposed and made into soil. That is essentially what's happening inside of our body, and so it is a very poetic phase. We have this internal death cycle every single life cycle of our womb, and so I love to tap into that, and I love to take time to be slow with myself, to support my body in the shedding, and to support my emotional state in creating art. I love to pour myself into my poetry during this phase and to journal. And so this morning I've been journaling on how can I prepare my body to shed, and how can I celebrate endings because they truly are a chance for new beginnings. And so that can be a journal prompt for you guys to tap into, and I will also be sharing some more poetry prompts later in the video just because I think that that can be a really special way to romanticize your luteal phase. And I am sipping on some rose cacao because cacao is really full of magnesium, which is going to replenish and remineralize my body and support my stress response because your body is a little bit more stressed out during this phase. So I just love to support that so that I don't experience excess stress and anxiety, which can tend to pop up. I know a lot of women experience that too. And yeah, I'm just getting some sunshine on my face before I go for a walk and do some yoga. Since our cortisol rises during our luteal phase, it is really important to be finding ways to lower stress and anxiety within our mind and body. So I'm going to be sharing with you some of my favorite easy tips to include into your days during your luteal phase to alleviate stress and anxiety from the body. First and foremost, my favorite tool to lean on is my breath. No matter where you are, no matter what time of day it is, you can always use your breath to anchor you into this moment. One of my favorite breathwork practices is alternate nostril breathing, and this is when you close off one nostril and inhale, then you close off both and you hold at the top, and then you open up the alternate nostril and you exhale through that nostril. And this helps to activate both sides of our brain to alleviate any anxiety and also activate our parasympathetic nervous system. This turns on rest and digest and alleviates cortisol from the mind and body. My second favorite tip is to get your feet above your head and heart, and I do this by finding a tree to place my feet up on or putting my feet on a wall above my bed. This position is really beneficial because it allows our blood from our feet and legs to drain back up to our heart, which is not something that we allow our adult bodies to do much of. This allows our bodies to switch into rest and digest as well and activate our parasympathetic nervous system. My third tip is to work with your hands. It's very ancestral to have a connection to our hands and our sensory environment, so go outside and feel the textures of the leaves, pick some wild medicinal plants, plant a garden, or run your hands up along the bark of a tree. You can also work with your hands to make yourself a nourishing drink or a meal. I love to make myself nourishing herbal elixirs, which I will share the herbs later in the video. I love to journal, which also allows me to express myself. I love to create art or create vessels out of mud and make pottery. Working with our hands puts us back in our bodies. And going off of that tip, it's also really important to get ourselves in our bodies, and my favorite way to do this is to gently bring some circles to my head and to my neck. I like to make figure 8s with my head. This activates my parasympathetic nervous system and is a form of somatic release. Next, I wanted to share my favorite ways to move my body during my luteal phase. Since our cortisol is resting at a higher rate, it is counterintuitive to be pushing our bodies. This can lower our metabolism and drastically have an effect on our mood and energy levels overall. So my favorite forms of movement are low impact ones. What's really interesting is that the rise in progesterone actually allows our bodies to create more muscle, and muscle is a key metabolic tissue, which is really important for our overall hormonal health, so I love to lean on resistance-based workouts during my luteal phase. Whether I'm going to the gym or doing bodyweight exercises at home, I make sure that I keep it low intensity, but also push my body enough to be able to build muscle. Some great forms of movement are vinyasa yoga, Pilates, bodyweight upper and lower body workouts, resistance-based strength training, gentle swimming, long hikes, dancing, and walks in nature. Nutrition during our luteal phase is especially important because our metabolic rate is resting at a higher place, and so we need more food during this time. If you find that you are also extremely ravenous before your bleed comes around, this is why. Your body genuinely needs more food. So some of my favorite foods to include in are high quality sources of protein to give our bodies the building blocks that it needs to create hormones. I love pasture-raised eggs because they are a great source of vitamin D and B vitamins, which are both really important for progesterone production. Other great forms of protein are grass-fed meats, wild-caught fish like salmon, and oysters because they are all really rich in minerals, which are great for our bodies, and they are also rich in omega-3 fatty acids to help alleviate inflammation. I also incorporate at least 10 different fruits and vegetables that are in season throughout the day to give my body a plethora of antioxidants to fight off inflammation and feed my healthy gut microbes. Additionally, I love to include in medjool dates because they are a great source of good quality carbs as well as minerals to help remineralize our bodies and alleviate any excessive bloating or cramping. In addition to good quality carbs to feed our gut microbes, we also need to replenish our gut microbes because the stress and cortisol can damage them. And so I love to incorporate different fermented foods throughout the day, such as sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha, and different types of yogurt. Root vegetables like carrots, potatoes, and beets, as well as cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cabbage, kale, and radishes are great to include in because 1, they give our bodies a great source of quality carbohydrates, and 2, the cruciferous vegetables are a great source of sulforaphane, which helps to feed our gut microbes as well as create beneficial anti-inflammatory substances that help support our liver and detoxification. I also love to incorporate bone broth in because it's a great source of protein and amino acids, as well as being a great source of minerals such as calcium. Studies show that incorporating in more calcium into our diet as women decreases the amount of PMS we experience. And another great form of calcium to include in is grass-fed Greek yogurt because it also is a great source of protein. It wouldn't be a complete video without talking about herbs for your luteal phase. I feel like herbal allies are my favorite way to support my body, and I lean on them every single day. So during my luteal phase, which is the longest of our phases, it's really important to me to be cycling what herbs I'm using during this phase to make sure that I am giving my body everything that it needs. So one herb that I really love is chaste tree berry or vitex, and this one is a very powerful herb, especially if you are somebody who struggles with PMS, breast tenderness, bloating, or hormonal acne, and or really painful periods. So chaste tree berry helps your body find balance between estrogen and progesterone. And whenever you have too much estrogen in your body after ovulation and your body hasn't efficiently cleared it out in relation to your progesterone, or you're not making enough progesterone, this herb helps your body find its optimal balance between progesterone and estrogen, especially in your luteal phase, so that your progesterone can be taking the star of the show and your estrogen isn't stimulating all your cell receptors. So different women experience PMS and all of these symptoms differently when they have estrogen dominance because all of our bodies are different, and we might have more cell receptors in different areas of our body. Some people might have it on their face for the hormonal acne. Some people might have it in their breast area for hormonal fluctuations with your boobs and getting breast tenderness. Some women might have it in their abdomen and get really bad bloating or digestive issues. And so knowing your body and knowing when these symptoms pop up, we can then use this information to best support our bodies. And so this is chaste tree berry. It's a really beautiful herb. It smells kind of like celery. I tend to take this herb in tincture form. I will either make my own or get it from Herb Farm because I really trust that brand. It has a very peppery taste. It's very acrid, dispersing, slightly bitter, which is really great for our liver and just getting things moving. So really love chaste tree berry. I would take it right when ovulation happens all the way until the day before our next period starts. Another one of my favorite herbs is orange peel. Orange peel is one of my favorite herbs in general because it's so cheap and so effective at what it does. It's a bitter herb. It's full of vitamin C. So the vitamin C is fighting inflammation, which is what's going to be causing our period cramps and all of these inflammatory responses that a lot of people associate with the unsexy parts of the female reproductive cycle. But the bitterness of it is really great for supporting our liver and clearing out excess estrogen. So like we talked about before, we want to clear out estrogen after ovulation occurs. And so bitter herbs like orange peel can be really helpful for this. And the bitter component of it is also allowing our bodies to digest fats, which we need to assimilate hormones and assimilate this feeling of being satiated, both within our nutritive cycles of what we're eating and also just feeling satiated in life. And so orange, just think of that vibrancy in winter. It's really just dispersing and can be really uplifting to the spirit. So I always just keep orange peel on hand. You can simply save your orange peels and cover them in either vinegar or glycerin or a clean alcohol, an organic alcohol, and leave it to sit for about 5 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks or longer. This one's been steeping for a good few months, and then strain it and add it to tincture bottles and take it as needed. Another one of my favorite herbs of all time is ginger. Ginger is especially helpful in our luteal phase because it's a carminative and it's also really great at igniting our digestive fire. Our digestive system can start to feel a little bit sluggish. So ginger, just having ginger on hand. I love fresh ginger, but I also have dried ginger on hand. They're a little bit different in their energetics, but their ability to support our digestion is very similar. So I keep ginger on hand. I'll make tea from it. I'll make ginger shots from it. I will even just massage it onto my womb with a hot heating pad or castor oil pack over it and just bring some warmth to my womb and get things moving. And so I love ginger for that. It's also really great at alleviating spasms. So just pumping your body full of all of its great attributes before your period comes is a great preventative measure that you can take. Maca is another one of my favorite herbs. It's an adaptogen. It's really beautiful at helping our bodies find balance, especially in our hormones and our stress response. It is an herb that grows up high in the Andes Mountains, and it's adapted its body to be able to withstand harsh conditions. It's one of the only crops to grow high up in the mountains because of the wind and the harsh weather. And so it does the same for our bodies. It helps our bodies find balance within the changing of the seasons. And so the luteal phase is our internal fall, and fall is classified as this big transition period. There's a lot of waxing and waning, and our body needs to find balance. And so maca does just this in our body. It's also been shown to help give you energy and to also help bring balance to our hormones. So I really love maca. I love to have the powder. It tastes really good because it's a rich root. And so I love to include it in baked goods, I'm not a big fan of smoothies, so I'll include it into hot chocolate or even just mixing it with a nut butter and cacao powder and a little bit of honey and making nice little nourish balls to bring with me. Love it. It kind of has a butterscotch taste. So about 1 to 2 teaspoons is what I will take daily as a form of herbal medicine for my luteal phase. I will also add a bunch of herbs into a jar to make my own tea blend. And so the base of it is red raspberry leaf. Red raspberry leaf is a tonic herb, and it helps to tonify our reproductive system. And so it can alleviate cramping. And it's also been known to remineralize our body. I usually sip on it during my bleed and into my follicular phase, but I also just love to use it as a base for all of my teas as a woman because it's so remineralizing, and our bodies tend to just need all the minerals because our soils are stripped and all of those things. So love red raspberry leaf, so I put that as a base. I also put dongkai or dongwei. Dongwei is the correct way to say it, but you'll also see it as dongkai. It's a very beautiful blood building herb for women, and so building our blood, building our uterine lining in order to shed is what we were doing during our luteal phase. So I love dongkai. And then I also include burdock root because it's another bitter herb that's really remineralizing as well. And so that bitter is helping our bodies find balance and supporting our liver in detoxifying out any excess toxins, any excess estrogen that is clogging up our systems. I also have glycyrrhiza, which is licorice root, which is a very harmonizing herb, and it's also really great at bringing balance to the female reproductive system. I have Chinese white peony in here as well, which is one of my favorite herbs, and I also have chamomile to help ease anxiety and bring calm to my body, which I find really helpful because I get really anxious due to the surge in cortisol during our luteal phase. So women and plants truly do go hand in hand. There are so many different plants that offer support for our bodies, and these are just a few of them that I would use for my luteal phase. There are definitely a lot more that I include in throughout the month, like cardamom and hawthorn and all of those beautiful heart-opening, warming herbs as well. But these are the ones that I really think would hit home for everybody, and so I'm offering this knowledge up for you guys, and I hope that you guys are able to tune into the herbs and definitely share if you build a connection with one of them. Progesterone gears our brains for project completion, so I love to use this phase as a time to get everything checked off my to-do list before my bleed starts. I love to drop into my studies and get my homework checked off. I love to take the time to clean up around the house and tidy up. I will do my laundry, do the dishes, sweep, wipe off all the surfaces, clean the bathrooms, and all of that good stuff. I also like to take the time to tend to my own body, so I will dry brush to increase lymphatic drainage and support my detox pathways. I will oil up my body to moisturize my skin and massage as I go. I find this helps to alleviate tension and gives my body the extra love that it deserves. All of these acts of self-love definitely will not go unnoticed by your body. From nourishing her with food and herbs, to saying I love you to her through mindfulness practices and deep, nourishing forms of movement. Our luteal phase is our internal death cycle, and it can bring up a lot both emotionally and physically. So take the time now to slow down. It is your internal fall, and you're creeping up on your internal winter. It's a great time to reflect on what you are ready to shed. So I wanted to leave you all with these journal prompts to ponder on. Can I reflect on a time when an ending in my life was really the birth of a new beginning? Can I recognize any limiting beliefs I am holding and find ways to let them go? How can I create daily rituals that allow my body to truly rest? What boundaries do I need to put into place with myself and with others to allow this to happen? Finally, yet simply, in what ways can I invite in rest today? I hope this video inspired you to see the magic in each of our phases as a woman. It truly is so magical to be able to flow and fluctuate alongside the seasons of the earth and the rhythm of the moon. After watching this video, what is one practice you are most excited to incorporate into your luteal phase rituals?